Before the world knew about Nelson Mandela, before the mines of gold and diamonds, there was a land filled with ancient tribes, skilled metal workers, and sacred stories written not in books, but on stones and walls. This is the untold history of South Africa, a story that begins long before colonization, shaped by courage, conflict, and the unbreakable will of a people. So sit back and travel with us through the rise and fall, the pain and triumph of one of Africa's most complex nations. Long before cities, there were hunters, herders, and artists, the San and Khoikhoi people, among the world's oldest surviving cultures. They lived close to nature, moving with the seasons, painting stories of gods, animals, and ancestors on rocks that still whisper through time. The San people didn't build kingdoms or armies, they built connections. The art, like the ones found in the Drakensberg Mountains, shows a civilization rich in spirituality, harmony, and storytelling. These were Africa's first philosophers, people who saw the earth not as a resource, but as a relative. Centuries later came the Bantu migrations, waves of people moving south from Central Africa, bringing with them iron smelting, farming, and new languages. Out of these movements rose powerful early states, Mapungubwe, Great Zimbabwe, and later the Zulu Kingdom. Mapungubwe, around 1075 AD, was the first complex society in the region. Its rulers lived atop stone hills, trading gold and ivory with distant Asian merchants through the Swahili coast. Archaeologists discovered royal graves adorned with gold artifacts, proving that long before Europeans arrived, African civilization was already advanced, organized, and wealthy. And then came Shaka Zulu, the warrior king who would reshape Southern Africa's destiny. In the early 1800s, Shaka rose from obscurity to power, turning the Zulu into a mighty empire. He reformed the military, introducing short stabbing spears and tight formation tactics. But his rise sparked the Mofekano, a period of warfare and displacement that scattered tribes across the region. Though brutal, Shaka's reign also built unity, discipline, and identity, leaving behind a legacy of pride that still defines the Zulu nation today. In 1652, Dutch settlers arrived at the Cape of Good Hope, led by Jan van Riebeeck. What began as a simple supply station for ships traveling to Asia soon became a colony. The Dutch, later known as Boers, took land from the Khoikhoi and San, enslaving Africans and importing workers from Asia. Out of this mix came the Afrikaner identity, white settlers with their own culture, language, and deep connection to the land they had taken. By the 1800s, the British Empire arrived, seeking control over the same lands. The clash between Boers, British, and African kingdoms would define the next 2 centuries. The discovery of diamonds in Kimberley, 1867, and gold in Johannesburg, 1886, changed everything. South Africa became the economic crown of the British Empire, attracting fortune seekers, colonial soldiers, and ruthless businessmen. But while the empire grew rich, Africans were forced into mines and labor camps under harsh conditions. The land was taken, their freedom stripped, laying the foundation for racial segregation. The wars that followed, the Anglo-Zulu War, the Xhosa Wars, and the Boer Wars, turned the land into a graveyard of ambitions. In 1910, the Union of South Africa was formed under British control, joining Boers and British in one government. But black South Africans had no seat at the table. They were pushed into homelands, denied education, and used as cheap labor for white-owned industries. By 1948, the National Party made the system official, calling it apartheid, meaning apartness. Apartheid divided people by race, banned interracial marriage, and forced millions into segregated neighborhoods. It wasn't just policy, it was cruelty made into law. But even in darkness, there was light. The African National Congress, ANC, rose as the voice of the oppressed. Leaders like Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, and Walter Sisulu organized strikes, protests, and boycotts. In 1960, peaceful demonstrators in Sharperville were shot by police. 69 killed. The massacre ignited global outrage and inspired a new wave of resistance. Mandela and his allies were arrested, and in 1964, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. For 27 years, he sat in a small cell on Robben Island, breaking stones, but not his spirit. Meanwhile, musicians like Miriam Makeba and Hugh Masekela used their voices as weapons, spreading the message of freedom through song. By the 1980s, South Africa was boiling. Students protested in Soweto, workers went on strike, and international sanctions isolated the apartheid regime. The world began to see the truth, and pressure grew unbearable. In 1990, Nelson Mandela was finally released. His smile as he walked out of prison became a symbol of forgiveness, stronger than hate. In 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections. Millions lined up for hours to vote, and for the first time, Nelson Mandela became president. He declared, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will experience the oppression of one by another." Freedom came, but challenges remained. The scars of apartheid, poverty, inequality, and racial division still cut deep. Yet South Africa rose again. It became a nation of resilience and creativity, home to diverse cultures, music, and innovation. Figures like Desmond Tutu preached reconciliation, calling it the Rainbow Nation. Athletes like Sia Kolisi, artists like Black Coffee, and filmmakers like Trevor Noah carried the torch of progress into the modern world. South Africa's story is not just about pain, it's about power, perseverance, and pride. From the rock art of the sun to the speeches of Mandela, this land has always spoken through its people. And as the sun sets over Table Mountain, it reminds us freedom was never given, it was fought for. This is the untold history of South Africa, a story of a nation that refused to be broken. If this story moved you, like this video, subscribe for more untold African histories, and share it. Because history is not just what happened, it's what we choose never to forget.